What's up guys, welcome back to the channel. So, Cassiopeia, this is the official first League of Legends champion I'm going to be covering from Noxus. Last week I went for the Noxus map explore, which was really good. I'll put in a link in the description if you want to go and check that one out. So what am I going to do today? I'm going to go through her bio, as you can see here. Then I'm going to go through and review her skins. Now I've had a quick look, I can't find anything in terms of special interactions and also a login theme, which is a shame. And also her spotlight is really, and I mean really old, so I'm not even going to go through that. I'll go through the abilities on the League of Legends website, but I'm not going to go through the actual 10-year-old spotlight. Then I'm going to finish off with the story. So yeah, I'll timestamp the whole thing as I always do, and yeah, without further ado, let's go. So yeah, this is Cassiopeia, the Serpent's Embrace, so aka Medusa. She's basically Medusa in terms of her look, and based off this image here, I'm also guessing her abilities as well. So, the youngest child of General du Cortu, Cassiopeia was born to a life of possibility and privilege among the Noxian noble houses. Okay, from an early age she displayed a keen mind and a sharp wit, and while her sister Katerina flourished under her father's tutelage, it was their mother Serena, in whose footsteps Cassiopeia would follow. Interesting, so she's the sister of the other Noxian champion, Katerina. Okay. A hero of Noxus' expansion into Shurima, General du Cortu eventually sent for his family, installing them close to the governor of the coastal city of Uzeris. Surrounded by strangers in her unfamiliar land, Cassiopeia remained close to her mother, learning much of politics, diplomacy, and subtle influence. As she grew, Cassiopeia could not help but glimpse other hidden concerns with Serena beyond those of the Empire. One day, quite unexpectedly, Serena collapsed in the family residence. Her hairbrush had been laced with caustic venom by an unknown hand, leaving her close to death. General Dikotsu was well versed in the ways of an assassin, and so he had all the household staff removed, leaving his wife and daughters alone in the empty house. Still little more than a child, Cassiopeia never left her mother's bedside. While Serena's recovery took many months, the bond between them became stronger than ever before. When the general was recalled to Noxus to prepare for the long-awaited invasion of Ionia, he took Katerina with him, but Cassiopeia remained in Urias. Seemingly relieved, Serena confided in her daughter that she belonged to the clandestine and secretive cabal known by some as the Black Rose. Okay. Having guided the Empire for centuries, they had finally managed to spread their influence into Shurima. So the Black Rose was mentioned when I talked about Elise. Elise had connections to Black Rose and also connections to Noxus as well. Now free from her husband's watchful eye, Serena's real work could begin. Do tell. In time and under her mother's tutelage, Cassiopeia blossomed into a young woman of tremendous beauty, cunning and intelligence, if somewhat lacking in empathy. She saw those around her as tools to be used to achieve her goals and then cast aside just as quickly. Though she had barely reached the cusp of womanhood, she was initiated into the Black Rose by hunting down and eliminating those who had sought the death of her mother. She surprised even Serena with her speed and efficiency and left no trace of her activities or her proxies behind. So she's an assassin just like her sister. Only then was Cassiopeia made privy to the Cabal's broader plan for Shurima. Using her family's tremendous resources, she undertook a number of expeditions deep into the desert, raiding ancient ruins with the help of a local mercenary named Shiva. Okay, who's obviously from Shurima. Her efforts were made all the more urgent when she realized Urias from the capital. When word reached Osiris's from the capital. I'm murdering that description. Anyway, Grand General Borum Darkwell had been deposed by Jericho Swain, and a number of noble houses had chosen to honour this coup, including their own, which is Du Cortu. Outraged and disgusted by her husband's betrayal and fearing all the members of the Black Rose were now in jeopardy, Serena became desperate. She dispatched Cassiopeia to seek out the godlike power that had been the key to Shurima's supremacy in the ages past. Cassiopeia swore she would return with a weapon ready for the looming secret war, or not at all. Fulfilling the oath would leave her changed forever. Upon unearthing a lost tomb in the mythical Ascended, she knew that this was the threshold to the power she sought and intended to dispatch all witnesses from her expedition before claiming it. The guide Shiva was the first to fall to Cassiopeia's blade, but then an ancient stone tomb guardian reared up and buried its fangs into her flesh. Okay, so I'm so short we saw this event when I went through these 1 or 2 of the videos on Azir, and the Ascended showed this happening. I'm sure it did. Overcome by the arcane toxins, she was carried back through the desert by her hired soldiers, screaming as her body twisted into something new and unspeakable. Cassiopeia locked herself into the disguised crypt of the Osiris' residence and endured the untold agonies of this transformation. Gone was the brilliant and beautiful daughter of Serena de Cotu, replaced by a monstrous slithering creature that sulked in the shadows, spitting poison and crushing stone as easily as glass. For weeks she wept and howled, grieving for her lost life, until the day she could weep no more. She dragged herself up from the depths of despair, determined to accept, maybe even someday embrace, her fate. It was not the ascension that she had hoped for. Cassiopeia had unearthed the magic of the dead Shuriman gods. She would turn it into the schemes of the Black Rose, just as her mother had planned, and she could feel this power growing within her day by day. Though into what, she could not guess. Though into what even she could not guess. So interesting. Okay, good to go through her bio, bit of her backstory. Interesting to see her connection not only to Noxus in terms of her sister Katarina, but also to Shurima, and what turned her into aka Medusa. What's ironic there as well is she's turned into the snake, and in life before she turned into one, she in essence was a snake. She betrayed people, she was a backstabber, and she would only use them to get what she wanted in essence. Very similar in a way to Elise. And you can also see here her kind of like links and connections to Shurima in terms of her base skin as well. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to move on to her skins. Let's go. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I think I'll go through this as well because this gives like a nice little bio for each individual skin. So Cassiopeia is a deadly creature bent on manipulating others to her sinister will. Young and most beautiful daughter of the Count Kotu family of Noxus, she ventured deep into the crypts beneath Shurima in search of ancient power, which you obviously found out from the most recent bio. There she was bitten by a gruesome tomb guardian whose venom transformed her into a viper-like predator. Cunning and agile, Cassiopeia now slithers under the veil of night, petrifying her enemies with her beautiful gaze. So yeah, this is her base skin. Yeah, interesting, cool base skin. So the next one is Desperada Cassiopeia. Enterprising creatures of the Old West often fall in with more successful bandit clans, serving as nightmarish enforcers, unafraid of the little casual violence. Cassiopeia became infamous as one such outlaw, but following a bloody coup now leads an enclave of her own. So I feel like this is the High Noon before High Noon skin. I love how she's throwing vipers as well there. Next one is Siren. Okay, like a mermaid or something. A humanoid marine serpent known for luring sailors to their deaths. Cassiopeia had a bad reputation and wants to set this record straight. She needs to stop turning interviewees to stone for that to work, but at least she's trying. Okay, common theme here of turning people into stone. There you go, mythic once again in the background, turning people into stone. For some unknown reason, we don't have a bio for this one, but yeah, okay, mythic Cassiopeia. Interesting. Okay, next one is Jade Fang. Ooh, an adherent to the teachings of the legendary Jade Dragon, Cassiopeia keeps its archaic rituals secret and the beast's true nature shrouding in mystery. In recognition, she has been granted a fragment of the creature's power and awaits a day when it will drown the world in evil. Nice. Okay, I like that one. I like how the horns as well. You can see how the horns there are like serpents. Eternium. Now I like that one. Eternium. In a world overrun by alien machines, this one seems especially intrigued by your presence. Its lithe metal form slides towards you, begging you for attention. You take one look and we know what the end of that sentence is. Now that one's cool. I like that one. And then Spirit Blossom. Rumored to have once been a beautiful princess, legend says Cassiopeia vanished into the mountains when her sister staged a coup, never to return. So great was her beauty and so renowned her cunning that a shrine was built to honour this spirit of temptation, until her story was accepted into popular folklore. Spirit Blossom. Okay, that one's cool as well. And what's interesting, it talks about her beauty, which ties in nicely once again with Medusa, because I'm gonna get this wrong now, but I think the basic lore of Medusa is she was a beautiful woman. One of the gods obviously was attracted to her. I think it was Zeus, they had a child, and I think Zeus's godwife was jealous and then turned Medusa, or turned Medusa into the half snake, half woman. So it kind of ties in with this as well, that she was beautiful originally, and so was Cassiopeia. So, anyways, enough of that. If I had to, I think that's the end of it. If I had to pick my favourite skin, it would have to be Eternium. Eternium would be number 1, number 2 would be Spirit Blossom, and number 3 would be Jade Fang, in that order as well. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to move on to the story. In fact, no, before I move on to the story, I'm going to have a look at the skins for Eternium. If there's skins for Eternium, I will do that, and then I will finish off with the story. But yeah, before I do both of them, let's have a look at the abilities. So this is Cassiopeia, Roll Mage, difficulty high. So her passive is Serpentine Grace. Cassiopeia gains movement speed per level, but she cannot purchase boot items. Interesting. So the higher the level, the faster she becomes. I guess late game that's really good as well, because then she won't need to, she can have another major item as opposed to boots and not lose speed as well. Noxus Blast. Cassiopeia blasts an area with poison after a brief delay. Clearly ties in with her in essence because it's poison, granting her increased movement speed if she hits an enemy champion. Ironically, the enemy champion there is Siva. Miasma. Cassiopeia releases several clouds of poison, slowing, grounding, and lightly damaging enemies that pass through them. Grounded enemies cannot use movement abilities. Twin Fang. Cassiopeia lets loose an attack that deals increased damage to poisoned targets and heals her for a percentage of the damage dealt. If the target dies from this attack, Cassiopeia regains mana. So there seems to be quite a theme here, doesn't there? That all of her abilities tie in with either poisoning, speed boosts, and or slowing enemies as well. Petrifying Gaze. Cassiopeia releases a swirl of magical energy from her eyes, stunning any enemies in front of her that are facing her, and slowing any enemies that have their backs turned. So interesting, her ability has 2 different effects based on if you're looking at her or not. Nice. Okay, so let's move on to the skins, if there's one for my favourite skin. And then onto the story. Let's go. Looks cool. It reminds me of Project though. Mordekaiser's Project skin is basically very similar to that. Looks nice though.
No legs, but I still have a little spring in my step.
Okay.
Eventually, they all come crawling back.
Whoa, it's a bit creepy, isn't it? Now we're doing a little bit of a cha-cha. Okay. Then an evil laugh. Oh, whoa. Wow. Huh. Okay. Whoa. It's nice to see her abilities as well. I think it's kind of ironic that she is fighting Katarina as well.
Every problem is an opportunity.
Check out the combos.
Don't forget my embrace.
Whoa. That's the ultimate, I guess. Destroy them from the inside out. Uh-oh. Okay. Alright. Okay. So that is the end of that. But yeah, it's basically a project. That might as well be a project skin. She said that one of her lines was destroy them from the inside out. I'm sure that was very similar to a line that Mordecai's had from Project, where in essence it's a virus, isn't it? It's a virus that takes over the host. Mordecai's just the host for the actual virus that controls him. And the look of it, his look is very similar, and his thoughts, not his thoughts, the lore behind it seems very similar to this one as well. And also, to add to that, this part here. So at first I thought she was going to kill it. But you can see obviously she's just turned it into one of its things, one of her minions. So yeah, very similar to Project in my opinion as well. But no, good to go through her skin spotlight, see her abilities in action as well, and also this skin. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to move on to the story. So the story, the shedding of skin. Interesting. This is clearly Shurima as well. You can see by the background. Okay, cool. Cassiopeia reclined against the crenellated rooftop and gazed over the winding alleys and crowded streets of Osiris. A Nox in possession for years, but it's clearly next to Shurima. The coastal city still refused to completely embrace its new identity. It felt ancient and quietly resistant to the future. So Shuriman. Go. Untroubled by the cool night air, Cassiopeia wore a shift of translucent silk, which revealed the transition of her hips where soft skin merged into sinuous, overlapping skin scales. The scent of roasted meat wafted up to her hidden area, but it could not mask the vile stench of thousands of people living on top of each other. Her mouth burned as Nox's venom mingled with her saliva. Ugh. She flexed her muscular tail, cracking the stone and sending crumbled fragments to the streets below. Rats scattered from the falling stone. Filthy street urchins dashed around street corners as hooded figures whispered in the shadows, and burly soldiers staggered in and out of taverns. All were oblivious to the predator lurking in the darkness above. Cassiopeia brushed a taloned hand against her scaly side, her serpentine figure concealed by the shadows. Once she had been a powerful figure of Noxus, assassins killed at her slightest whim. Soldiers spilled their darkest secrets, and generals willingly followed her counsel in the hopes of patronage. Cassiopeia sighed. Those days she emerged only under cover of night, and no longer was she an influential voice in Noxian society, not since she had been reduced to this grotesque abomination in hiding. Upon her return to the desert, Cassiopeia had hidden in the crypt of her family's residence, fearful of her transformation. She remained alone in the dark, dank vault for weeks, filled with disgust for her serpentine body and mourning the loss of her aristocratic life. Eventually, a growing desire to hunt overwhelmed her, and she ventured out to roam the city by night as the household slumbered. Cassiopeia put aside her reverie as a broad-shouldered soldier in a leather breastplate stumbled from a tavern, drink in hand. Finally, this was the man she'd been waiting for. Here we go. She trailed his movements from above, following him silently over fortress walls and archways, until he entered an empty courtyard. Perfect. Cassiopeia slithered onto an adjacent roof, eyes glinting with predatory thrill. Her figure cast a shadow across the soldier. He turned, drunkenly defiant. "I know you're there. Show yourself," he said. You don't want to ask for that. Cassiopeia's tail twitched in anticipation. Her forked tongue extended, tasting the air. She drew the sweet scent of his blood into her lungs, then exhaled with great satisfaction. "Fight me face to face," he shouted. Don't want to say that. "I ain't going to be stalked by some animal." Cassiopeia let out an angry hiss. By the time the soldier looked up, she'd slid to the opposite side of the courtyard and perched directly above him, remaining out of sight in the shadows. "You consider yourself better than an animal, do you?" she said. The man's head turned abruptly, trying to pinpoint the sound of her voice. "How do you get across so fast?" he said, his wavering tone betraying false bravado. "Even beasts are nothing to your savagery," said Cassiopeia. Breathless, he edged away, looking for an escape. He hammered his fist against every door, but each was bolted shut. Cassiopeia imagined his mind racing to solve the riddle of who was hunting him and why. He unsheathed his sword, turning on the spot, unsure whether to direct his threat. "You don't want to cross me. I've gutted worse enemies than you." "Not just enemies," Cassiopeia replied. "I've seen your handiwork. You're not the only one who creeps around in the dark." She spat a bilious wad of venom as he turned towards the sound of her voice. The man howled in pain, coin-sized holes burning through his armour and into his skin. She inhaled the satisfying scent of burning leather and flesh, like you do. The man brandished his sword. "Who are you? Why are you doing this?" "I've been watching you," replied Cassiopeia. "I know who you are, what you do." "Right, okay. What I do is no business of yours. I know you're murdering children for drake meat. I hear it's quite lucrative." The man tried to pry open the shutters of a nearby window with the flat of his sword, but they were bolted shut. There's the 3 tavern wenches," said Cassiopeia. "Samela, Emlyn and Lynx. They were found in the river yesterday." Okay, so basically it's a murderer. Okay, their faces were hardly recognisable once you'd finished with them. She relished the thought of shrinking her talons into his flesh. Alright, so she's got a bit of a good streak to her. The man readied his stance. "You cannot fight me from the shadows. Show yourself." "Very well," Cassiopeia said. She slithered down the courtyard and rose to her full height. The man's eyes withered in horror, his hands trembling. Cassiopeia stood head and shoulders above the man, glaring down with narrowing eyes. "Monster," he cried. "Monster," murmured Cassiopeia. "Not the words I've been called." She slid left and whipped her tail across his legs, effortlessly knocking him to the ground. Curling her tail around his chest, she squeezed his ribcage tighter and tighter, sensing his pounding heart straining beneath the grasp. She heard bones crack. She resisted the urge to break him completely and released the grip. He clawed to his sword, gasping in desperation. She so enjoyed watching him tremble. She circled him slowly. He met her gaze and stared in slow recognition. "I know your face. The Lady Cassiopeia," he said. "Look at you." Point to the ground, he pushed himself onto his feet with his sword. "You chase drunkards like me through the filthy gutters of the city now, is that it?" The man spat a wad of blood. "From such great heights we fall, eh?" "Oh, getting personal," she hissed, exposing gripping yellow fangs. Cassiopeia's gaze bored into the man's eyes, locking them in a cold-hearted bond. She screamed, pouring all her rage into the cry. Fear of the fairness of her current state, anger at the loss of her privileged life, resentment for her failed ambitions. She channeled it all into the screeching, mind-shredding wail. As she screamed, her fury was replaced with joy. It felt like she was floating, her potential for greatness indefinite. Every fibre of her being sang with ancient power. Searing emerald light blazed from Cassiopeia's eyes. The man's final panic was outlined in silhouette as he petrified from the inside out. He stared hardened, greyed and stiffened, his last cry of terror stifled as her cursed transformation transformed his flesh to stone. Obviously her ultimate ability there. Cassiopeia slithered up to the statue and softly caressed its hard cheek. What was once skin fractured into a grisly pattern resembling a dried riverbed. "Once I had to manipulate, bribe and otherwise persuade people to orchestrate my scheme," she said, "but now I simply take what I want." She whipped her tail forward, smashing the statue to the ground. She smiled, eyes glinting as she shattered into 1,000 pieces of rubble and dust. As he should have said. Cassiopeia flushed with pride as she considered her handiwork. Her life as a noble was over, yes, but never had she felt such boundless power coursing through her veins. She slithered back onto the rooftop, her mind awhirl with ideas. Her next victim would offer her a far greater challenge. I wonder who her next victim could be, if it's a far greater challenge. But that was interesting, and a nice little story there. And she seems to have kind of a good streak there as well. She killed someone who clearly had killed innocent people as well, by the sounds of it, children. So interesting to hear that take on that side of Cassiopeia as well. So yeah, I think that sums it up, and that's going to be it for me today, guys, on this one. Hopefully you enjoyed my thoughts and reactions to all things Cassiopeia. And if you did, feel free to let me know. Feel free to like, comment, and maybe also subscribe for more content like this. I will obviously be continuing this theme of Noxus Champions. And yeah, I will see you guys in the next one.